Hello and welcome to Newsclick. There appears to be a major scam involving some of India's large corporations like the Adani Group and the Anil Dhurubhai Ambani Group, and also another 40 Indian large energy companies. These companies are currently being investigated by the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence. Conservative estimates put the money involved at around Rs 29,000 crore, which has been passed on to the consumer as increased electricity prices. To discuss this issue, we have with us Editor, Economic and Political Weekly, Paranjoy Guha Thakurta. Paranjoy, thank you for joining us. How did this scam come into light?
Me and my colleagues, we broke this story for the Economic and Political Weekly on the evening of the 4th of April 2015. We had been working on this story for some time. We had received information indicating that there was a huge scandal, and this was a scandal that would run into nearly 30,000 crores, about 29,000 crores. It had been reported earlier because in December of 2014, the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, which comes under the Ministry of Finance, had conducted search and seizure raids in about 80 odd establishments across the different parts of the country. So when I learned that a general alert had been issued by the DRI to 50 odd customs establishments across the country, and there was a detailed note outlining the modus operandi of the way in which coal that was being imported from Indonesia was being over-invoiced. This information I put in the public domain, and I learned for the first time that there were 40 companies, at least 40 companies, and these were 40 of some of the best known energy companies in India. It included about 6 companies belonging to the Adani group, headed by Mr. Gautam Adani, who is a business person who is known to be close to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There were other companies, including companies that were part of the ADAG, the Anil Dhurubhai Ambani group. There were companies in the SR group promoted by the Ruya family. There were companies there was a company like JSW Steel, headed by Sajjan Jindal. He's the same steel magnate who helped Mr. Modi have this appointment with Mian Nawaz Sharif in Pakistan. And there were companies in the Hyderabad-based NSL group, which is promoted by Mr. Venkat Ramaya and Prabhakar Rao. There was India Cements, which is led by the Mr. N. Srinivasan, who was the former International Cricket Council chairman. There was Uttam Galwa Steel, led by Rajinder Miglani, among other companies. We found that these were the private players, and then there were the public companies involved. There were not just electricity board, the Tamil Nadu Electricity Board, the Gujarat State Electricity Corporation, the Haryana Power Generation Corporation. There were also very prominent public sector organizations which is part of this network, including India's largest electricity generating company, NTPC, formerly National Thermal Power Corporation. Then there were companies like MMTC, formerly Metals and Minerals Trading Corporation, MSTC, formerly the Metal Scrap Trading Corporation. And what has happened is it was found that all these companies are part of a network where you were importing coal and you were inflating the prices, often as much as 40 to 50%. These costs were being passed on to ordinary users of electricity. So it was not just these companies that were, in a sense, defrauding the exchequer, but there was an element of fraud that was being committed on ordinary users of electricity. And according to the calculations that have been made by the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, the price of 1 unit of electricity, 1 kilowatt hour of electricity, would have gone up by 1 rupee or 150 rupees. So if you are actually paying, say, 3 rupees or 4 rupees or 5 rupees for 1 unit of electricity that you consume, by manipulating and by defrauding, and this is not me, but what the DRI is alleging, the price that was being paid by the consumer of electricity was going up by between 1 rupee and 1.5 rupees per kilowatt hour. So in a sense, this huge scam running into almost 30,000 crore rupees, about a third of it was in the form of money that was being taken from ordinary consumers of electricity and indirectly or directly benefiting these companies, these 40 companies which are being investigated by the DRI. And what was happening is the extra amount of money. So if the actual price, the landed price of coal should have been, say, $40, but you're showing it at $80, what happens to the remaining money? This is the money that is being taken illegally out of the country. And it was found that there was a network of companies, not just Indonesia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai, dummy companies being floated, invoicing, from one to another to the another. And so there was this elaborate scam which the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence has unearthed, and time alone will tell how the investigations proceed. So far, at least one individual, Manoj Kumar Garg, who's involved in various other scams, he has been arrested. He was arrested on the 27th of February 2016, and he was allegedly operating a front company in Dubai and overvaluing imported coal worth about 280 crore meant for the state electricity boards in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. But my sources tell me that this is just the tip of the iceberg. My sources in the Ministry of Finance believe that is a huge scam which need to be investigated in detail.
What did these companies actually do to inflate the price? What was the real modus operandi?
You see, typically what would happen is that India has preferential trade agreements with several countries, including a country like Indonesia. Now, these provide for concessional duties. So, for instance, when steam coal is imported from Indonesia, it attracts no basic duty. But to avail of this concession, the importer has to produce what is called a certificate which shows the country of origin. Now, what is happening is that many of these documents were forged. And what was happening is many of these transactions were taking place on high seas. That means the coal is, say, moving from a port in Indonesia to a port in India. But while it is on the high seas, there have been changes, the transactions, the buyers and sellers have been taking. As a result of which, the whole idea is you have these multiple transactions, so that that's one of the ways in which you inflate your costs. Now what happens is the freight on board, that is the price which is when the freight is on board of these coal. Now in Indonesia 2 years ago varied between $30 and $37 per ton. You add to that the freight charges for delivery to ports on the eastern coast of India, and you add another $10 to $12 per ton. So the range is between $40 a ton to $50 a ton. But what you are actually showing on your invoices is twice that amount, $80, $85 a ton. So the whole idea is that one is the manipulation of the invoicing, but it didn't stop over there. There was another way in which the manipulation was taking place. And what was that? It was on the quality. And you have laboratories which are supposed to certify the quality. There is the technical word for it is GCF, the gross calorific value. Now, the higher the gross calorific value, the higher is the price of coal, the more expensive it is. But what was happening? There were different testing agencies for the same consignments, and they were being bribed. The laboratories concerned were being bribed. The certificates you have of sampling and analysis were being manipulated, and this is how the whole transactions were. All of these resulted in the prices going up. These are series of transactions. This is typical of money laundering, layered transaction, one layer of another layer of another layer.
And this has been going on for for about 5 years. And what could have been the impact on the price that consumers like I and you would have?
You know, according to the DRI, and it's not my view, each unit, the price we were paying could have been lower by 1 rupee or 150 rupees. And mind you, this is over a period of 4 or 5 years this has been happening. And the amount that I'm talking to you may not be the actual amount, because here we are only talking about one set of violations. These companies are violating a whole lot of other rules. They could have been violating the Income Tax Act, the FIMA or the Foreign Exchange Management Act, the PMLA or the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and just look at it. In 2014-15, that is the year that ended on the 31st of March 2015, India imported just from, the coal imports that India had imported were about 212 million tons. And these were worth over 100,000 crores. So I am merely saying that if you look at the huge amounts of coal that we are importing, and there are a variety of reasons why. A, the quality of coal that's available in India is inferior and often inadequate. You know, in the recent past, India has been importing somewhere around 15 to 20% of the country's total requirements of coal. We have abundant reserves, but there have been all kinds of problems in coal mining and also the quality of that coal. So just to give you an idea, I mean, what the DRI has investigated and found may be a very small part of a huge racket. And as I was telling you, according to the official data, the amount of coal that we are importing is huge. It's over 100,000 crores. Of late, the prices have come down because all commodity prices have come down. But as I was saying, in the fiscal year 2014-15, this amount was over 100,000 crores.
And as you've said, some of these companies are known to be close to certain political parties who've been in power at the center. Is it a political nexus as well?
You know, it's for the government to find out. It is for the investigating agencies to find out. It's for the Enforcement Directorate, the Income Tax Department. It is for the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence. These are all working under the Ministry of Finance. It's for other agencies like the Reserve Bank of India. It's for agencies like the Securities and Exchange Board of India to ascertain who are the people involved, whether there is any criminality involved, what are the nature of the allegations. But the initial evidence seems to indicate that this has been a huge racket, and some very, very important companies run by some very, very influential individuals, their companies are being investigated. What the DRI finds, how the investigations take place, only time alone can tell. How the judiciary will how the process it will follow, you know, because what is the process? After the investigations are complete, you are supposed to issue show cause notices. Then it goes through various processes. You have appellate tribunal, then you have the courts of the land. So I think all of this will take some time to before the investigations or the denouement or the outcome of these investigations reach their logical conclusion. So time alone can tell whether or not certain influential people will be indicted in this scandal.
Do you also think that tax havens have been used to sort of do these transactions and, you know, move the money free?
Undoubtedly. You find, if you going by the preliminary data that's involved, the tax havens are among the definitely the entities are registered in these tax havens. These are no tax or low tax jurisdictions, and you very, very often find that the different layers in these transactions that take place, tax havens are definitely involved in the way the money gets routed and the way the money travels very, very rapidly, often at lightning speed across different jurisdictions. This is a process called round tripping. It's a process called treaty shopping, and you definitely do find tax havens are being misused for such apparently illegal activities.
And the quality of the coal imported is also under question. does it mean that the electricity produced was of low quality and there was obviously an environmental impact?
It's a slightly complicated question. Power tariffs are fixed by electricity generating companies and distributing companies, and these companies are regulated at central level by the CERC, the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, and there are various state regulatory commissions. Now, typically the tariffs comprise two parts. There are two components. One is called what are called capacity charges for the recovery of annual fixed charges or capital costs, and energy charges, which are for the recovery of the cost of fuel, the primary fuel cost. Now, what happens is the energy charges that are recovered by these power generating units from the distribution companies are based on the cost of the fuel that's consumed. Thus, if you artificially enhance the price of imported coal, you are able to get a higher tariff and pass it on to the consumer. Now, all these companies that are involved, all the companies I've named, the companies that are in the Adani group, the companies in the ADAG, that's the Anil, Dhurubhai, Ambani group, the India Cements, various other companies, the JSW Steel, all these companies are, and the Ruya companies, and Uttam Galva Steels, NSL Group, a whole lot of others, Gandhar Group, Bhatia Group, Gupta Coal, MBG, Commodities, Knowledge Infrastructure, all of these claim they are not violating the law, that the DRI's allegations are incorrect. But at the end of the day, it's up to the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence to prove in a court of law whether its investigations have yielded any violation, or what kind of violation of the law, and whether criminal intent can be established or not. These are issues that will have to be determined by tribunals and courts and such law enforcing bodies. I mean, so the justice system will have to decide who is guilty or who is not.
Thank you, Paranjoy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.